Now, it is Movember, and Gillette, in association with Movember, Effortless Shave, Magnificent Mo, are asking you to donate now at Movember.com, or you can also donate to our next guest, Iain Ward, the King of Chemo, who is on the line now. Good evening, Iain.
How are you doing? First of all, I am making myself unique by not having anyone donate. I get the sponsors to do that. The normal people have to just follow the channel and then take advantage of marketing.
Ah, brilliant. I should point out for anyone who's listening on the radio here, you are wearing an actual crown. Is that an everyday occurrence?
Surprisingly, it is actually the comfiest way I find around the gaff to actually just have my hair dry, because they have a little bit of exposure, but then like these long locks aren't flopping around in front of my face. So sometimes I open the front door to like a postman or something, and he has a weird eye at me, and then it's like, oh God, of course, you forgot to take off the bloody crown.
It suits you. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I've been wearing it enough.
So we come back to the fundraising and what you want people to do and how they can help sponsors give all that money to cancer research. Can you bring us through your story and back to 2019 and the discovery of a brain tumour?
Yeah, so I went in to do a medical trial, and by just sheer amazing luck, they were doing ones that involved something to do with the mind. Therefore, they had to do an MRI scan on the brain. Now, I've done a few of these human guinea pig trials before, and I've never had anything to do with an MRI whatsoever, let alone an MRI for the head. And they were able to find a benign, so they said a benign tumor. Then the next time they went in and they got it scanned, they said, all right, we were absolutely wrong. This is not a benign tumor. This is like growing like COVID. We need to operate on this as soon as possible. And then when they did the biopsy on the tumor after I'd gone through the craniotomy, which was loads of fun. I recommend everybody do a craniotomy, especially one that is awake. Very fun. And then they said, okay, this is a cancerous tumor, stage 3 glioblastoma. So yeah, it's not the greatest result, but it's not the worst. And then I was like, all right, may as well just take advantage of the pity party that I'm going to get with this and see what I can make of it, and try to break a world record for raising the most money for running a marathon.
What age were you in 2019 when you were given the diagnosis?
Given the first one, I was 30. Then when I was given the second diagnosis, where it's like, this is cancer, we need to bring this in, it's growing, I was still 30. And then 31 when I was doing my brain surgery. It was like 2 weeks after my birthday. So woohoo!
I've been following you on social media, and you're such a brilliantly positive person. What are those initial days like, though? You know, I know you're talking there about a pity party and milking it for all it's worth and all of that, but like in reality, what are those first few days like when you're given that diagnosis?
Honestly, it didn't seem so bad, because like straight away the doctor was just getting on to the glass half full side of things, where it's like, you've come in without symptoms. That is completely unheard of for someone who's your age. It never happens in his entire career. There's only one person who's come in, and I think even then they were saying that they were like 37. So and then he talked about how the plasticity of the brain, the younger you are, the more likely it is that you'll have a huge recovery rate. So he was saying likely what's going to happen is that you'll have issues with your speech for about a year, but you should come back to full recovery. And that was solved within 6 days. So it seemed to me that this is, even though they were saying like the average person who has your condition has a shelf life of about 5 years, we got out of them, which they never want to say. And it's Hollywood films where it's like, you know, you got 3 days to live. They don't say that. They never want to say that sort of thing. And but we were saying, all right, come on, stats wise, from your own experience, how long do we have? And but even at that, because of my youth, they don't have a lot of research around people like me who come in at my age with no symptoms. So there's a lot of more positives than the title would say, but we can still use that title to raise money, because people always like that sort of what would you call it, underdog sort of tone to it.
You mentioned there, maybe ironically, the sheer amazing luck of coming in with absolutely no symptoms, undergoing a medical trial and discovering this diagnosis. Do you look at it as luck that they found it at that stage, that you had, maybe more time than a lot of people would have had without realising that you had that brain tumour, and were able to live your life absolutely normally and not have the thoughts that you might have had afterwards? Or would you prefer to have known sooner and start treatment sooner?
I mean, knowing sooner is always the benefit. I would have preferred to have not got it in the first place, but you gotta play with the cards that you dealt. And I feel like even though I haven't gotten the greatest hand, I got a certain amount of advantages to the fact that it's almost like I know everybody else's cards, sticking with the poker metaphor here. But yeah, I mean, you can cry and complain about everything that is wrong in your life, but that's not going to get you anywhere.
How quickly did you come to that realization?
An hour.
And what about the people around you? What about your family?
Well, I mean, it's the same sort of thing. There's a reason that during certain wars, when people would start getting afraid and running away, they'd be executed. It's because emotions are transferable to other people, and so that they didn't want the cowardice spreading around. And it's the same sort of thing, that if you walk in somewhere with a big positive outlook on things, it's difficult for everybody to start crying around you. So no, I don't think anyone's had very much of a hard time on that.
It feels, from seeing your social media profile, and listen, it's never a full reflection on somebody's life, that you go at things full throttle. Was that pre-diagnosis as well? That was just your personality?
In some regards, yeah, but I think it's increased massively now, because I feel like I have far more of a purpose as to what to do with my life. I was quite happy with my life, but because I'm a big person that believes in whatever job you're going for, make sure that you really enjoy it, and money doesn't really matter too much. And so I was working as a fitness class instructor, and I love that, but there's the career development sort of thing wasn't very promising. It was the kind of thing where it's start my own business, start my own gym, which I didn't really want to do because I was aware of how much hassle that would be. But outside of that, there's not really much sort of career progression. Same sort of thing where it's I don't want to try and become a world-class social media physical therapist or personal trainer, because again, that's incredibly difficult, and I just didn't have the get up and go to do that. But now I do have that get up and go to do the sort of cancer related charity stuff that I'm doing every day now. I'm not doing enough. It's brilliant. I can't wait until at some point the channel is so big that people are asking hey, will you do this talk? Will you do that race? Will you do this? And I'm just yeah. More.
So did you sit down, and when you made a decision you wanted to do something, and go through the possible options of, I'm just going to train for 6 months and run one marathon, or I'm going to run a lot of marathons, or what was the thought process behind, actually, this is going to be a long journey where I'm going to try and raise more money maybe than anyone's ever raised before?
Yeah, well, it was just I knew I already had knowledge in being physically fit and physical challenges, and I knew that any kind of physical challenge that is done by someone who has a physical disability, and cancer has that title, even though I personally, because it's brain cancer, I quite luckily, again, don't have physical impinging problems. So I can just use the title of I have cancer, but not be of a disadvantage because I have it. And therefore, when I start adding to the story that I'm doing all these physical things that are difficult for the average person, it seems oh, he's got cancer as well, even though it doesn't actually affect me. It just makes tells the story better. So using it against itself.
So what are you doing?
The latest thing that we're going to be doing is me and a man who is originally from Ireland as well, but lives in London. 80 Phelan. He's been on the Late Late Show donkeys years ago. We are going to cycle all the way across America. He's doing it more for the mental health side of things, but I am obviously doing it for the cancer side of things. But both of us appreciate the other thing just as much. As it happens, we're starting on the 5th of January. And the 6th of January is the decade anniversary of one of my friends who lost his life to suicide. So it's very personal for everybody. On the 5th of January, his father died of cancer due to he wasn't able to see him over COVID. So like there's loads of different aspects in both of our lives that have crossover. So yeah, the whole way across America by bicycle only.
It's an incredible thing you're doing, and the training you've been undertaking. And like, to be honest, when I first saw some of your videos online, I thought you were undertaking this on behalf of somebody else who'd been diagnosed with cancer. Such was the physical strain you seem to be putting on yourself. Has it been a strain? How's your body responded to the training you've been doing and the building up to this?
Yeah, it's been taxing in a lot of ways, but in more of an annoying way than anything else, because while the marathon training was going slowly increasing, for some reason, the London and the Dublin Marathon were far slower than ones that I had done earlier in the year, even though I'd been very carefully clocking in quite a few miles. And I don't know what that was for, because it's not like they were particularly earlier things. But I mean, that's just part of any kind of drive towards something that is successful and difficult to do. If you don't have failures, or if you don't have points where everything isn't always going on a steady increment up, then it's not a good story and it's not an honest one.
How do your doctors react when you tell them you're undertaking these sort of challenges?
Oh yeah, they're grand. Like even when I was doing my radiotherapy and chemotherapy, when I was saying to them, hey, is it okay if I run into the hospital because I'm training for a marathon? And they were all just like, yeah, fine. Like that. I was expecting there'd be like, that sort of extra mommy daddy sort of sound to it, where it's like, oh, you need to be careful, make sure you wear a helmet and all this. But they were just like, yeah, sure, exercise is encouraged. So I was just like, all right, Grant, got the doctor's thumb up.
Does that ever enter your head? I need to be careful?
I mean, yeah, I suppose with certain things, but more things that are related to the actual sport, or the marathons themselves. So I used to be really into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and because I have a bit of a gammy knee, I don't want to do jiu-jitsu anymore, because if I mess up my if I get further meniscus damage, it doesn't just mean that I won't be able to do jiu-jitsu. It means that I'm not going to be able to run the marathons. And even though I much prefer, I wish that you could do like, hey, I'm going to enter a jiu-jitsu tournament and I'm going to raise money for cancer research. But running a marathon is just more associated with like people know it more, people understand it more. So it's just the superior way to do it in terms of raising money for the charity.
And how are you keeping day to day then when you're not training, when you're just having downtime, when you're just relaxing, sitting on the couch and have probably time to think, maybe too much time to think?
I don't take days off. There's days where you have recovery, but recovery isn't the day off if you want to be focused on your training. Recovery is days where you're stretching, you're like the dog gets walked every day and all that sort of thing. So no, as often as I am physically able to do it, I'm always training.
So I mentioned that.
Not when it's making videos on the social media platform to encourage more sponsors and the rest of it, or sometimes I'll be doing some event sort of thing. So this would be included in that sort of roster, so to speak. And then the odd time there'd be like teaching fitness classes. Hopefully that's going to be a new thing that we're going to start regularly doing with Gym and Coffee, who are the latest on the sponsor list. So yeah, it's just keeping busy.
So talk to us about the fundraising then and how you've gone about that, because you say it's not a case of people listening in tonight just donating individually. You've got a group of companies that you're trying to get involved and get them to give the money on behalf of people.
Yes. So when I first started doing this, I looked into how people, well, just out of curiosity in general, I was always like, how do people on social media actually make the money? Because they don't make it from YouTube or TikTok or whatever. That company pays them a tiny amount, but like they're millionaires. What makes them millionaires? Of course, sponsorship. Now it's the same principle as radio or television, where if you have a popular television show, every so often you have to have ad breaks, and that's actually where the money is being made. And that's not really much different to how people on social media make money in. There's obviously some exceptions to that, like Twitch. They get donations from the viewers themselves, often for doing certain things, and I wanted to incorporate stuff like that as well. And I just found that it was a kind of a way to take advantage of marketing, because apart from the difference of being like, I'm not asking you for money, hopefully people will listen and be like, yeah, I know people with cancer. Everybody knows people with cancer. It's like Thanos, you know, where he snaps the fingers. Half the population is affected by it, but the other half, they're just as affected by it because they miss the people, or they're worried about the people that are going through those situations. And so I was like, okay, it affects everybody. And now the problem that people are always saying about donations is that they don't have the money, which I've kind of taken out of the scenario. And then with the channel being really huge, I'm able to go up to certain companies and say, hey, look, I will advertise your product, and you donate not to me, directly to cancer research, which most big companies already have a budget set out for donating to charities. So it just sort of incentivizes them to do it more. And it's worked a bit so far. £100,000 raised for the last year, and we've reset it now. So we haven't got new donations in, but they always come at the end of the year after companies have done their quarters and whatnot.
If people want to follow your journey, then what's the easiest way?
The King of Chemo on whatever platform you are more likely to be using. So YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is the one that's the got the largest numbers, but I put videos up on an even amount of scale on all of them.
Iain, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. You're a remarkably inspirational man, and I think wearing the crown, well deserved.
Yeah, thanks very much.
It's solid gold, is it?
Of course. Made in the hills of Ireland.
Brilliant. Iain, very best of luck. Very best of luck with the cycle as well, and hopefully we get to check in with you again around that.
Yeah, by all means. Like, we'll be doing as much media as humanly possible, because while we're still doing the cycle, it sounds like it's going to be a lot of work every single day. But I reckon the most amount of work is going to be how much we're going to be promoting it off the road.
Yeah, the cycling will be hard work too, though, I suspect. So very best of luck with that, Iain. And thanks a lot for talking to us and off the ball.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me on.
Iain Ward there, the King of Chemo, as you said. If you want to follow Iain's journey, the King of Chemo, on all the social media channels.